is Tiffany. I'm a rock climber and a manager. My values are authenticity, integrity, and personal growth. Authenticity for me means truth to yourself and truth to others always. Integrity means always living by some sort of code. Usually it's a moral code, but I think that it can differ for different individuals. And personal growth, which is a continuous process of personal improvement in your own life and in your professional life.
Hi and welcome to Deb Talks, where honest conversation happens. I'm really excited today because I am joined by Tiffany Melius. And Tiffany is a rock climber who represented Australia in the Bouldering World Cup in 2013 and this year, 2014. Tiffany, it's a pleasure to have you here on Deb Talks.
Thank you very much.
So tell us a little bit about yourself and perhaps how you got into climbing, because I know that you have a really interesting story.
So how did I get into climbing? Well, I started off doing gymnastics. I'd done it since I was very young, and I basically got bored of it and was looking for a change, wanted a sport that would keep up my strength and flexibility. A neighbour had recommended that I try a local climbing gym. I went down one time and I was hooked. I joined their youth team. I started competing 3 months later. It was kind of a very natural progression.
Nice. And how long ago was that then? So how long have you been climbing, if you don't mind me asking?
16 years, I think, since 97. So maybe 17 years. Yeah.
Wow. And just tell us about, you've entered various competitions, and there's been a lot of high points and low points in your kind of climbing, I'm not sure if I would call it career, I guess. You can say if it is or not, but I guess your journey, your climbing journey. So tell us a little bit of everything you've gone through since that first time when you entered the gym.
Okay. Well, I couldn't tell you everything. It would take a long time.
Okay.
But I've definitely had high points and low points. Probably the first major high point was when I placed second in Australia in both the route and bouldering disciplines, which was a huge thing for me because I'd come up from the youth categories and I was competing in open with, all my idols, and I was able to achieve second basically in Australia. And the two girls who won those two disciplines were different. So I was like consistently good across the disciplines. And anyway, so that qualified me to represent Australia at the Asian Extreme Games.
Wow.
Which was in 2004.
Okay.
And it was my first international competition and I was so psyched for it. And while I didn't have any expectations going into it, when I actually got there and I started climbing alongside the girls, I was like, I could actually podium this, if not win it.
Fantastic.
I was, just doing really well alongside all the other girls. And for various reasons that I can look back on sort of now, I didn't do as well as I'd hoped. I ended up coming 8th, which really isn't that bad, but considering where I had put my expectations, I was devastated at the end of it, and probably a little bit burnt out because I'd been competing sort of non-stop for a long time. I put a lot of time and energy into organising competitions and setting up competition infrastructure in Australia, and then I started working full-time managing a climbing gym, and I was really just burnt out, kind of, over climbing overload, and that really not changed my perspective so much, but I was put in a different position. I didn't completely stop competing, but I wasn't enjoying it that much. I was, not training because I wanted to do well. I was training because that was what I knew to do. And eventually I actually left Australia and went traveling and did do some climbing while I was overseas. My first stop was in Thailand and I climbed there for 4 months, and that was amazing. But at the end of that, I was done. I didn't climb for a year, I think.
Was that every day you were climbing, or maybe a couple of times a week?
I was in a climbing spot, so I was climbing, if not every day, you know, like a few days on and then a rest day off, a few days on and rest day off. But that's kind of what climbers do on holiday. So,
like, is that normal?
Yes, for climbers that's normal. Yeah. So yeah, but I was really ready for a break. So had a good long break and got back into climbing casually, I guess. And along the way, you know, as we talked about previously, I had some identity issues around, okay, well, if I'm not a climber, if I'm not doing all of these, you know, like, you know, I just said, you climb 5 days, you take a break, climb 5 days, you take a break. That's a climber's holiday.
Yeah.
If that's not what I did anymore, you know, who does that make me? Like, who was I without climbing?
Yeah.
And maybe because of that, I have had a lot of time or energy, maybe too much energy spent in subsequent years on making sure that people see me as more than a climber.
Okay, so it's almost a bit of an identity discovery, or
I guess trying to make sure that I haven't got all my like eggs in one basket.
Okay,
you know what I mean? Like, and so when I got to Canada, I really started climbing again seriously and training again seriously, and I started competing a little bit and doing really well. And there was a World Cup bouldering competition that was held in Canmore in I think it was 2011.
Okay.
And I went along just to spectate, and a whole bunch of my friends that I had competed against, Canadian friends that I competed against, were competing and not, like, they weren't, you know, top of the barrel, but they certainly weren't bottom of the barrel. And it made me feel like, oh, you know, maybe this is something that I could actually do, because I had discounted myself from international competition while I was traveling. I was like, you know, I've chosen traveling instead. It wasn't for me. I couldn't take the pressure or whatever. And so I decided to apply to the Australian sport climbing body to represent Australia. And while I was waiting, I actually went away on a climbing holiday, and broke my heel bone, broke my calcaneus. So that kind of, again, I felt like, okay, well, that's it. It's all over.
Yeah, it's just not meant to be.
It was 9 weeks. I couldn't put any weight on it at all. And then after the 9 weeks, when I started rehabbing it, it took, you know, obviously a long time to get back to a point where I could walk properly and then run on it and then take impact on it, because with bouldering you are falling onto pads, you're not being caught by a rope, so you have to be able to take the impact on your feet.
Properly. And how were you during that time when you couldn't even put any weight? How did you feel emotionally? Because you've talked a little bit about identity and not really wanting to 100% identify yourself as a climber, but now that is being completely taken away from you. How did that feel?
Well, I was very depressed for a lot of it. I was able to distract myself. You know, you never keep a good woman down. And you know, I've always been involved with a lot of things, a lot of extracurricular activities, if you want to say. And so during that time, I was heavily involved with the Vancouver International Mountain Film Festival. So I didn't actually, like, I could do a lot of work basically from my bed in terms of organizing things. And all I had to do was get to meetings and things like that. And so actually the first thing that happened, I remember a friend of mine took me out a couple of days after I got back from where I had been away climbing and hurt myself. And I sat her down and I was like, okay, well, the climbing competition thing is done. Like, what's next? okay, I'm gonna have babies. That's what I'm gonna be. I'm gonna be a mom.
That's my new identity.
That's it. That's exactly. No, that's what it was, really. Although I had never thought of it in those terms, except for just now. But that's exactly what it was.
It's like you're searching for the next identity.
I guess so. And she was like, okay, well, I think we should just, heal your foot first, and then you can figure out what's going on.
Did you have a boyfriend at that time?
Yes.
Okay.
Although he doesn't want kids, so.
Okay.
And so, that rehab was a long process. But having said that, about a year later, I was climbing again and competing again, and decided to apply again, and I got accepted onto the Australian team. And I ended up making semi-finals in one of the competitions I went in, which means top 20. Which, while that may not sound very impressive, it was
sure it is.
Yes, it was incredibly validating. It was like after all this time at what was it? It must have been 29, years old.
Yeah.
The majority of the competitors being, low to mid 20s.
Plus with an injury as well.
Yeah, a year before.
Yeah.
And to be honest, after the Asian X Games, I had struggled a lot, generally, but specifically in climbing, with self-worth issues and self-belief issues, and it had taken, obviously that long for me to feel like I was actually good enough to try, even just to try. And then, when I made semi-finals, it was like, okay, well, I deserve to be here. Not only did I make it onto the Australian team, but I made it through to the next round.
Wow.
Wow. So that was absolutely huge.
Did you feel like you'd found your identity again, or did you not feel that you had to rely as much on being a climber to feel like you have an identity almost? It's almost like you've accepted that you're good at it, but it's not the end all be all.
Well, I think probably what I've accepted is that climbing will always be part of my identity, but it doesn't have to be everything, and I don't have to be only a strong climber, because I think in the past, maybe that's what I struggled with a lot, in the sense of identity, is that I've got to be a strong climber.
Right.
But what I feel like now is that I'm probably always going to be a fairly strong climber, and that throughout my life I will probably have periods where I'm more motivated and more engaged, and other times where I'm less motivated and less engaged, and that's okay. And even so, after the competitions this year, the World Cups this year, I didn't do as well this year, which is odd because I felt much stronger this year and much more prepared this year, especially mentally. But competitions are fickle things. You can't actually control anything, because it's as much about how other people do as how you do. And while I came away from last year's competition feeling like I really, I wanted to go in next year's competition, but feeling pressure, how am I going to top myself? This year I feel like, okay, well, let's see how it goes. Maybe my life is going to take other directions. Maybe not. Maybe I will go back and compete again, but I'm not at that top echelon of the sport. So it's a lot of financial outlay, a lot of energy goes into training for these things, so that I'm going to be happy with my performance. Not so that I'm necessarily going to win or whatever, because I won't. That's just realism. That's not being negative. That's just being realistic in the field. And it's a huge commitment. For 6 months or whatever, you don't see your friends.
You don't have a life. You're just in the climbing gym constantly.
And you're putting money into massage and physio and kinesiology, and to make sure that especially at my age, which, well, I'm not old for an athlete. I kind of am.
Okay.
You know, it takes a lot of maintenance, and that costs money.
So a lot of money. Those things aren't cheap.
Yeah.
Wow.
So I'm not exactly sure where I'll go from here, but having said that, I'm on the board of the Sport Climbing Association of British Columbia, so I'm involved with organising competitions. So I'll be organising this year's series as I did last year, and I will compete because I feel like that's my role, is kind of to be the role model competitor. The rest of the people on the board are either gym owners or parents of competitors. So I feel like my role is to say, well, you guys should do it because I'm doing it.
Well, that's fantastic. I'm a big believer in lead by example.
Me too.
And that's exactly what you would be doing.
Yes.
Well,
so
I think that's a great way to bring in your values.
Yes.
So your values: authenticity, integrity, and personal growth. They've obviously probably come to you through your journey of climbing, or maybe some other journeys, but if you could share how you came to these 3 values, where they came from.
Sure. Actually, I would say that they're fairly recent, like in definition. I would have said, I guess 2 months ago, anytime before 2 months ago, I probably would have said strength, passion, and honesty.
Oh, okay.
But so where we met at the Minerva Learning to Lead workshop, one of the exercises there was a values definition workshop, and I had been trying to kind of do one on my own for a long time, and just never really been able to get there, or hadn't had the people questioning me, or hadn't had the definition around it. And so this basically came out of that exercise.
Wow. It was pretty strong when it was the should versus the core values.
Yes.
You know, for me, I think I had a lot of values that were should values, but really when you dug deep, they weren't at the surface. And it was a great way to really get those core values.
Yes, I totally agree. I had some aha moments about things that I had in my core values list that I was like, why is this not sitting comfortably with me, you know? And it was like, well, it's a should value. And so, I mean, strength, passion, and honesty all come under these for me. Like, being strong and passionate is part of the authenticity value.
Who you are.
Yes. And also honesty as well. I said, you know, truth to self and truth to others. And so that's part of the authenticity. Integrity. I'm a bit of an overachiever, and I've actually been throughout my life learning how to operate under the perfect is the enemy of good.
Okay. I've never heard that before.
You've never heard that? Oh, yeah. So you know, if you keep on trying to achieve perfection, you'll never get there. And you won't be able to do anything well because you're constantly striving for perfection.
Wow, I love it.
So for me,
learn something new here on DebTalks.
And so, integrity is, for me, is just living to the highest standards all the time. And I really think that integrity does vary from person to person, but the adherence to that code is partly authentic, being true to your own code, but it's also, you know, respecting whatever is in that code, I guess, and living your life to that, as opposed to just doing whatever you want all the time. And funnily enough, I've always struggled with guilt. I'm not Catholic, so it doesn't come from that. Apologies to anybody who might take offense to that. But like I find that anytime that I even like one step slightly out of alignment with my moral code, I feel a lot of guilt, and that's another thing that I've been trying to work through in my personal growth journey.
That takes us on to the next one.
So they are all interrelated, but one thing that when I had defined these values that was really powerful for me was that I looked back over a number of occasions that I had incidents even over the preceding few months, and any time where I had overreacted, like really overreacted. Once I had defined these, I could reflect back on those circumstances and realize that actually it was because the situation was in conflict with one or more of these values.
Okay.
And I find that probably I can find that in my relationships as well. So if I look at somebody that I maybe don't get along with, or whatever, I can look at my values and say, okay, well, this person is not demonstrating one of these. I can acknowledge that and potentially improve my relationship with that person by cultivating compassion around it and saying, well, okay, just because they're my values doesn't mean that they're their values.
And different. But it's fantastic that you can pinpoint situations that have been completely opposite or even slightly different from your values, because a lot of us sit in those situations perhaps not even knowing what our values are to begin with, but just knowing that something's not quite right, but because society or whoever states that that's where you should be, or you're in a steady, comfortable job, you should stay there, so we do what everyone else does. So it's fantastic that you've got that insight to really know what your values are and know that, if things don't align, then something's not right and you have to reflect and then do something about it.
Well, and hopefully now that I've defined these values, it won't just be on reflection that I can see that, it'll be, in the situation, and I can make decisions based on what I know is going to sit well with me.
Yeah, that's fantastic. So tell us a little bit about your career. You are a climber, and that's usually what you kind of project first. Yeah. But tell us about what you would do outside of climbing.
So I am a manager.
Okay.
That may mean a lot of different things. I've worked in, I've managed a climbing gym, so sport and leisure and small business management. I've worked in event management. I've worked in not-for-profit management. And commercial business. And we were mentioning before that I have not really focused on my career. A lot of that for me has been around, I do prioritize climbing, and I prioritize my extracurricular activities. Okay. And I don't have time to, or I think you saying you don't have time for something is a real cop-out, because that's not true. You're prioritizing your time differently. So I don't prioritize my job to a degree where it is a determining factor in my life. Having said that, I definitely seek work that is fulfilling and rewarding, and I don't feel like I'm being authentic if I'm just doing a job for the money, for the sake of it. So I am very picky about what I do.
That's fantastic.
But I do really enjoy management, partly because it works with my strengths, but partly because it gives me the opportunity to work with staff, which means that I can help them with their personal and professional growth.
Awesome. You really thought it out.
Well, this, honestly, it becomes this framework, right? And for me at least, every choice that I've made in my life, I can reflect back and I can see, did it sit well with me? And if it didn't, usually it's because it's in conflict with this. Did it sit well with me? Yes, it did. Usually because it fits with one of these. There is actually a fourth one, which is freedom to live and pursue your values. But as you had wanted 3, these are definitely my core 3.
I know. Well, we have a lot more than 3, but in order to keep time, I thought we'll go for 3, or otherwise we could be here all day. At the Minerva Foundation, we did 5 core values.
I actually only did those 4.
You only did 4, but I think we could do up to 5, and then we have a lot of other values too underneath that. And then another thing is values can change depending on circumstances and situations and personal growth.
Exactly, yes.
So where to next? In terms of success, you
Yep.
state that success is when you're living a life that's true to your values, which is very similar to my definition of success. That being said, where to next with climbing or your career or both?
Well, with climbing, I'm actually going on a climbing trip to an amazing crag in South Africa in August. So that's going to be wonderful. And just as a side project, I've never done this before, but I'm going to be creating a climbing film about that trip. So
Fantastic.
watch this space. Could be a disaster. Could be great.
We need to try these things.
And when I come back, so I'm actually finishing up my job before I leave. When I come back, I've really, again, since the Minerva workshop, have been doing a lot of searching about what I really want to do. And I'm kind of on the track at the moment where I think I might want to start my own business or social enterprise.
Okay.
And this is a very recent development.
Okay.
I'm even considering pursuing maybe life coaching.
Wow.
Yeah.
Interesting.
So anybody need a life coach?
Right here. Maybe especially
Not yet.
Maybe if you're a climber, you could be a life coach to climbers.
There you go.
You never know, find your niche.
That's right.
Find your niche market. That's fantastic. Well, yeah, we'll have to stay tuned, and if you do make that film, let us know so that we can definitely put the link out on Deb Talks. And I do want to mention you did a talk at, was it the Feet Canada Festival? Well, that was 2-3 years ago?
No, that was earlier this year.
It was early this year ago.
Yeah.
Awesome. So we will post the link for that as well, so you can hear a lot more about Tiffany's story.
And so just to let you know, FEAT stands for Fascinating Expedition and Adventure Talks. It's basically TED Talks for outdoor adventure people, and you only have 7 minutes.
Wow.
So it's very, you have to get it really tight. But it's fantastic, and it's on at the beginning of every year, and I would recommend it. Just a little plug there. I would recommend it if anybody is interested in that kind of thing.
Canada.
FEAT Canada. FEAT.
Great. Well, thank you so much for joining us, Tiffany. It was such a pleasure. So thank you for tuning in, and remember that you can continue the conversation by posting your comments or even your questions below this video, and feel free to tweet us at DebTalksTV for all you tweeters out there. I really look forward to seeing you next time on Deb Talks.
My definition of success is living according to your values.